Archaeologists have finally unsealed a hidden chamber believed to belong to Cleopatra, locked away for more than 2,000 years. What they discovered inside defies everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. An object unlike anything in recorded history, softly glowing, faintly humming, almost as if it were alive. Every detail challenges our understanding of ancient Egyptian knowledge and technology. What is this mysterious artifact, and why was it concealed so carefully? Let's uncover the truth. A queen lost to time. For over 2,000 years, the story of Cleopatra III has fascinated the world. As one of Egypt's last great rulers, she was intelligent, strategic, and fiercely determined. She stood her ground against the expanding power of Rome, governed her kingdom with sharp political skill, and built a legacy that still echoes through history. Roman historians wrote that Cleopatra was buried with full royal honors, yet they never recorded the exact location of her tomb. That single missing detail became one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. What began as a small gap in historical records grew into a mystery that generations of scholars tried and failed to solve. Accounts from ancient Egyptian priests describe Cleopatra's final moments in poetic and symbolic language. They did not see her death as an end, but as a sacred transition. According to their beliefs, she was a bride preparing to reunite with Osiris, the god of the afterlife, in a divine ceremony beyond the mortal world, hidden from the eyes of ordinary mortals. The vague and symbolic nature of these descriptions left scholars confused for centuries. Some believed the priests were hinting at a secret ritual performed deep within a sacred sanctuary, accessible only to a chosen few. Others argued that the cryptic language was deliberately crafted to protect her resting place from enemies and grave robbers. Despite countless attempts to uncover the truth, every new expedition seemed to raise hopes, only for them to collapse into doubt. Time and again, promising leads dissolved into skepticism, trapping researchers in a cycle of anticipation that ultimately turned into frustration. Then, in the early 1970s, an unusual incident quietly slipped into history. A Soviet research team was conducting geological surveys near Lake Marriott, a shallow saltwater basin southwest of Alexandria. Their goal was oil, not Cleopatra. Yet during their tests, their instruments detected something strange. Beneath the limestone, they recorded steady vibrations unlike normal seismic activity. These pulses were not caused by machinery, nor did they resemble natural ground movement. They were soft, slow, and eerily consistent. Local residents soon gave the area a name, Ab al-Nafas, the place that breathes. The scientists documented the phenomenon, archived their data, and moved on. Soon after global politics shifted, funding disappeared, Cold War tensions escalated, and the strange pulse beneath the desert was forgotten. There was no room for mysteries that didn't serve political interests. The reports were shelved, buried in obscurity for decades. Nearly 30 years later, technology reopened the case. In the early 2000s, satellite imagery scanned the same ridge once again. This time, the results were unmistakable. Beneath the sand lay precise, straight formations, far too orderly to be natural. Thermal and radar scans revealed that these structures extended several meters underground. Some analysts just dismissed the images as data anomalies. Others saw something extraordinary. When the formations were digitally mapped, their outline resembled the ancient Egyptian symbol of life, the Ankh. It wasn't carved on the surface, it was hidden, visible only from above, as if the sand itself were meant to conceal it. Even more intriguing, the pattern stretched toward a plateau long associated with the goddess Isis. Cleopatra famously identified herself as the living embodiment of Isis, adding a powerful symbolic layer to the discovery. What had once been a legend whispered through generations was now becoming a calculated scientific investigation, driven by data rather than myth. Further tests followed. Thermal scans revealed pockets of unusual heat beneath the surface. Soil samples uncovered traces of ancient plaster and resin, materials rarely found in untouched desert landscapes. In ancient Egypt, these substances were used to seal and protect sacred spaces, especially royal chambers. All evidence pointed to a structure deliberately built and intentionally hidden. What began as a story about Egypt's last queen was rapidly transforming into a genuine archaeological pursuit. Within months, the Ministry of Antiquities approved a full-scale exploration of the site. Was this the moment her lost story would finally emerge from beneath the sleeping sands? A team of scientists, archaeologists, and engineers assembled west of Lake Mariotte and began a ground mission under careful supervision. Heavy equipment was brought in, fueled by cautious optimism that centuries-old questions might finally be answered. The desert appeared calm and untouched, rolling golden dunes beneath a vast, silent sky. Then, shortly after setup, something unexpected happened. Sensors buried deep in the ground began detecting vibrations. At first, they were faint and regular. Then slowly they grew stronger. Equipment checks revealed no malfunctions. The pulse continued every 42 seconds, steady and rhythmic, like the Earth itself was breathing. During data review, one detail sent a chill through the group. In ancient Egyptian belief, the number 42 symbolized the judges who determined a soul's fate in the afterlife. Some team members laughed nervously at the coincidence. Others said nothing. Could a natural phenomenon truly align with such an ancient, sacred number? To learn more, the team conducted nighttime thermal scans. The desert was cold and silent under a clear sky. As the sensors mapped heat beneath the sand, the results were astonishing. Malignant, curved heat patterns appeared below the dunes, forming what looked like long corridors or passageways. The next day, aerial surveys revealed faint rises in the sand that mirrored those same patterns. Once mapped, they formed a massive rectangular layout, nearly identical in scale to temples built during Cleopatra's era. Still uncertain, the team took core samples. The upper layers revealed ordinary desert sand. But deeper down, they struck something unexpected. Tiny fragments of plaster, along with traces of bitumen, appeared in the drill cores. These materials were historically used to seal royal and sacred chambers. Excitement rippled through the team. The discovery ignited intense debate. Some researchers were convinced they had uncovered an ancient structure deliberately hidden for centuries. Others argued the evidence could be explained by shifting soil or unusual geological formations. A few dismissed it entirely as coincidence. As discussions continued, local residents quietly urged the team to proceed with caution. They warned that the land held ancient secrets and that disturbing them could invite misfortune. Most of the researchers acknowledged the warnings politely and moved on. But their confidence began to fade after what happened next. One night, security cameras recorded something extraordinary. The sand atop the ridge began to move, not from wind, animals, or machinery. Instead, the motion followed the same steady rhythm detected beneath the ground. The dunes appeared to breathe, rising and falling in a precise, deliberate pattern. It was calm, yet deeply unsettling. The next morning, after reviewing the footage, many workers refused to sleep near the ridge. Rumors spread quickly through the camp, and reports of minor tremors increased with each passing day. Fear grew and the project came dangerously close to being shut down. In response, the Ministry of Antiquities intervened. A tightly controlled excavation was approved under the leadership of Dr. Kathleen Martinez, a respected archaeologist known for her work on Cleopatra's possible burial sites. Upon arriving, she requested access to every scan, recording, and data file. She watched in silence, carefully studying each detail. When she finally spoke, her voice was calm and measured. If her theory was correct, she said, then they were standing above something Cleopatra herself wanted the world to find. At dawn, excavation began. Workers removed the sand slowly and methodically. At first, there was only heat, dust, and exhaustion. On the second day, thin cracks appeared along the perimeter, as if the desert itself were beginning to split. By the third day, the ground gave way. Sand slid and folded inward in a smooth, rippling motion. And from beneath it all, something solid emerged. It was stone, smooth, carved, and unmistakably shaped by human hands. As the dust settled, a single question lingered in the air, heavy and unspoken. What had the desert been guarding all this time? Stay with us. The temple that whispered through time. At first glance, the team believed they had uncovered a modest, weathered structure from a later period of Egyptian history. The sun beat down on scattered columns and collapsed walls. The site appeared forgotten. Just another ruin claimed by time. But once the dust cleared and light reached the inner walls, the inscriptions told a very different story. The writings identified the site as Taposiris Magna, the great burial place of Osiris. That revelation changed everything. In ancient belief, Osiris was not merely a god. He ruled the afterlife, judged souls, and guided them toward rebirth. He embodied renewal, eternal cycles, and divine judgment. A site dedicated to him was sacred ground, reserved for rulers, royalty, and those seeking immortality. For years, scholars had speculated that Cleopatra may have chosen this very place for her burial. She openly aligned herself with Isis, the eternal partner of Osiris. To be laid to rest near him in a sanctuary devoted to rebirth would bind her death to divine eternity. Roughly 45 kilometers west of Alexandria's coast, the temple stood in the region where ancient texts claim Cleopatra spent her final days. Though time had toppled columns and shattered gateways, the entrance remained clear. Remarkably, carvings still lined the inner walls. As the team carefully cleared away centuries of dust, they uncovered something extraordinary. The inscriptions were written in two languages, Egyptian hieroglyphs and Greek, engraved together with deliberate precision. This was highly unusual, especially within a sacred temple. Dr. Martinez immediately recognized its importance. Cleopatra ruled a kingdom divided between two worlds, Greek political power and Egyptian spiritual authority. That duality was etched into the temple itself, mortal and divine, Greek and Egyptian, united in stone. The structure appeared to reflect the queen's own vision. Nearby artifacts deepened the sense of awe. Coins bearing Cleopatra's image, statues of Isis with a hawk, symbolizing rebirth. Analysis of the altar revealed traces of blue lotus resin and bitumen, materials commonly used in royal mummification. These relics had not seen daylight in centuries. An almost sacred silence settled over the site. Then came another unexpected development. Sensors placed beneath the temple to detect ground movement began registering a faint buzzing sound deep within the limestone. Though inaudible to the human ear, the monitors showed consistent rhythmic fluctuations every 42 seconds, the same pattern previously recorded beneath the desert weeks earlier. Engineers checked the equipment repeatedly. No malfunctions, the data was real. The temple was not dormant. It seemed to be emitting a signal. Workers began to feel a subtle trembling beneath their feet, gentle at first, then gradually stronger. The vibrations were steady and intentional, as if the foundation itself were communicating across time. The hum was not random. It was coming from beneath Taposiris Magna, the corridor of eternal life. As scans continued, the signal grew stronger. By following it, the team traced its source to a dense layer of limestone beneath the temple. Ground-penetrating radar revealed something astonishing. Below the sanctuary lay an underground tunnel, carved directly into solid rock. It stretched for over a kilometer in a perfectly straight line. The precision was staggering. Even with modern technology, constructing such a flawless passage would be a challenge. At first, scientists suspected a technical error, but when a small camera was lowered through a narrow opening, the live footage confirmed it. The tunnel's walls curved smoothly, polished to a glass-like finish. There were no tool marks, no cracks, no signs of age or erosion. It looked as if it had been carved, sealed, and preserved, waiting. Carvings lined the passage, repeating symbols and phrases in both Greek and Egyptian, centered around the concept of Ankh, life renewed. Dr. Martinez realized this was no ordinary tunnel. It was a sacred pathway designed to guide the dead toward rebirth. Each step symbolized progress toward immortality. Following the signal deeper, the team traced it to what appeared to be a sealed chamber ahead. The scanner showed the outline of a circular space just beyond, and whatever lay inside was still waiting to be revealed. A chamber ahead measuring roughly 20 meters in diameter. The stone within was noticeably warmer than the surrounding limestone, suggesting it had been exposed to intense heat from the inside at some point in the past. Proceeding carefully, the team began breaking through the final barrier. When it finally gave way, the sound was not the sharp crack of stone, but a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through their chests. A rush of cold air burst outward, carrying the scent of ancient resin and metal, odors sealed away for thousands of years. Dust swirled through the beams of their flashlights as everyone instinctively held their breath. What they saw inside surpassed anything they had imagined. This was no ordinary burial chamber. The walls were coated in a glossy black material that reflected light like polished glass. The stone appeared melted rather than carved, as though shaped by extreme heat instead of tools. Above them, dozens of tiny blue stones glittered across the ceiling. Closer inspection revealed they were lapis lazuli, a gemstone once reserved exclusively for royalty. The stones were arranged in precise star patterns, depicting the goddess Isis restoring Osiris through beams of celestial light. The ceiling was not merely decorative, it symbolized resurrection itself, the moment life returned to the dead and the divine bond between heaven and earth was restored. The passage into the chamber felt intentional, like a journey of transformation. Corridor, tunnel, and sanctuary blended seamlessly into a single experience, one meant to guide the soul toward rebirth. The temple spoke without words, using stone, light, and vibration to communicate the promise of eternal life. So what else was hidden inside? The black sarcophagus of Cleopatra. Once the final seal broke, the chamber fell completely silent. No one dared to breathe. The air that escaped was thick and corrosive, burning the eyes and throat. It carried traces of resin, ammonia, and ancient gases trapped for nearly 2,000 years. Later tests would confirm that the atmosphere inside had reached dangerous levels. What should have been a triumphant discovery suddenly felt perilously close to disaster. At the center of the chamber stood the sarcophagus. It was carved from a single slab of black granite, darker and more reflective than anything the team had ever encountered. Under the lights, the stone almost appeared alive, shimmering subtly as if it were breathing. The lid weighed several tons and was sealed with hardened resin mixed with lead. Each attempt to lift it sent a rhythmic echo through the chamber. As the lid finally shifted, warm air poured out. The temperature inside was significantly higher than the surrounding room. Dr. Kathleen Martinez immediately ordered thermal scans. The heat was not environmental. It was coming from within. Inside lay two figures. They rested side by side, wrapped in layers of linen threaded with gold. Time had fused the wrappings together, merging them with funerary masks whose features were now barely visible. Between the two bodies lay a bronze tube, carefully positioned between their outstretched arms, as though it belonged to both of them. Every 42 seconds, it emitted a faint vibration that rippled through the granite, matching the pulse detected throughout the site. The male figure showed signs of deliberate internal alteration. His chest cavity had been opened, ribs forced outward, and filled with solidified resin and mercury. This was not preservation, it was ritual. Some scholars suggested it was meant to contain or redirect energy associated with the body and life. The female figure was far better preserved. Her linen wrappings had hardened into a rigid shell, holding her form intact. Under the lights, the surface appeared bronze-colored and cracked with age. Gold and silver glimmered through the folds. A brooch lay near her heart, and a pendant rested exactly where her heart would have been. The imagery was unmistakable. She bore the symbols of Isis, the goddess Cleopatra believed herself to embody. Around her wrist was a cobra-shaped bracelet, its raised head and exposed fangs frozen in metal. Though tarnished, its meaning was clear. In Egyptian belief, the cobra symbolized both protection and death, the same creature said to have ended Cleopatra's life. The room went silent. Dr. Martinez spoke softly, almost reverently. "It is her." Subsequent tests confirmed noble lineage, consistent with royal ancestry. But as the chamber was sealed for protection, the atmosphere grew heavier. Heat radiated from beneath the sarcophagus. The walls vibrated faintly. Some scientists compared the sensation to standing near an active machine. Others refused to re-enter the chamber. What began as a discovery now felt like an intrusion. Standing before the sarcophagus, Martinez whispered that they had come seeking answers, but instead felt as though they were being judged. The tomb had revealed the truth of Cleopatra's resting place, but it carried something else as well, a warning. The power surrounding the chamber was unmistakable, and the persistent pulse suggested that whatever lay here was not fully at rest. The tomb that issued warnings. Engravings along the walls revealed a disturbing message, carved in both Greek and Egyptian. Disrupt the harmony, and the balance will break. The words seemed to pulse in rhythm with the vibrations beneath their feet. Lower on the walls, half hidden beneath centuries of grime, another inscription emerged. Crimson will fall from the left eye. No one spoke. Mercury and lead were embedded throughout the plaster, forming hidden barriers. The air was heavy with the sweet scent of resin. Broken vases lined the corners. Beneath a collapsed column, the team uncovered a small, golden scarab inscribed with chilling words, "Bind the spirit to the flesh." Martinez realized the truth. This chamber was never meant to honor the dead. It was designed to restrain them. At the center stood a raised platform of fused stone. Two stone beds rested side by side, their surfaces smooth and heat-scarred. Between them lay the bronze tube engraved with swirling patterns. One scientist noticed a faint droplet symbol etched into the metal, matching the warning carved on the wall. The vibrations intensified. The ground trembled beneath them. Martinez ordered an immediate halt. Her voice remained steady, but the unease in the room was undeniable. "This is more than a tomb," she said quietly. "It's responding to us." And then came something even more disturbing. The circle of the dead beyond the sarcophagus, a narrow corridor twisted sharply and opened into a circular chamber. The air felt heavy, aware. Along the walls were shallow alcoves, each holding a single skull upright on a stone ledge. There were no bodies, only skulls. They counted them carefully. 36 in total. 12 men, 12 women, 12 children. Each skull faced the center of the room. Their eye sockets were dusted with gold. Traces of blue lotus resin confirmed ritual treatment. These remains were not abandoned. They were placed with precision. At the center stood a small stone platform marked with the Ankh, the symbol of life. On top rested two bronze cups fused together by extreme heat. One contained dried human blood. Above the alcoves, a final inscription warned, "They guard the passage. They maintain the balance." Every skull was missing its lower jaw. Forensic experts later confirmed this had been done deliberately to prevent restoration. Sensors detected electromagnetic pulses rising and falling every 42 seconds. Crew members reported pressure behind their eyes and a metallic taste in the air. Alarmed, Martinez ordered the chamber sealed immediately. Her final words before communications cut out were clear. "This is not a burial site. It is a mechanism." The implications were staggering. Cleopatra's tomb was not just a resting place. It was a carefully engineered system of containment. The skulls served as guardians. The pulse reflected divine judgment. And by opening the passage, something ancient may have been disturbed. So what do you think lies beneath Cleopatra's tomb? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this discovery, like, share, and subscribe for more mysteries buried beneath history. And before you go, watch our next video.